Why? So we can have an interesting feel. I'm just going to be blacked out. So,
Sign in. Getting started.
overview and
SCP-5223.
reactive.
Rating, plus 27 plus, X. SCP-5223. Rating, plus 20. Item hashtag, SCP-5223. Object class, heater. Special containment procedures.
Ooh,
SCP-5223 is to be contained in a double-lid vehicle containment chamber at the containment facility nearest to SCP-5223's most recently ascertained location. This chamber is to be retrofitted with access to a humanoid containment chamber, as per the request of SCP-5223-1. Dr. Baker must be present for all tests involving the vehicle.
each SCP is likely SCP that I don't.
Vehicle. A minimum of one security guard is to maintain a perimeter of no around SCP-5223. Any person attempting to enter this perimeter outside of testing conditions express permission is to be forcefully removed from SCP-5223's containment chamber and barred from entry until further notice. If possible, SCP-5223's containment chamber is to be lined with lead. Description: SCP-5223 is a 1941 Chevrolet split windshield pickup truck bearing heavy damage to its left side panel.
Okay.
Though the vehicle is capable of normal movement, how this is accomplished with engine cataloged in I-5223-01. Moreover, while the vehicle is in motion, no audible engine noise can be heard. Beyond standard movements, 23 is also capable of teleportation and the creation of a teleportation is, likewise, humans stepping closer than 5 meters from the vehicle will be lulled into a suggestive state, similar to that of the drug desomorphine, for a short time.
Morphine.
Victims of this suggestive state, SCP-5220 guest, will become more jovial and agreeable as the effect wears off, at which time they will be henceforth referred to SCP-5223- in the passenger.
Oh yeah, this is just the summer, so it's really hot in here, and I can't use a fan because this auto quality is not the best. Auto quality is not the best. So yeah.
Passenger seat of the vehicle. SCP-5223-1 will then invite the guest into the vehicle and transport them to SCP-5220. Mention: SCP-5223-1 might also transport his guest to one of many locations around the globe should he be provided the opportunity. What is contained in this dimension varies from encounter to encounter, though events in this dimension will remain consistent with what the guest is most fearful of. Point 1.
Fearful, that makes sense for a
SCP-5223's
kid.
dimension will most often present themselves as a or nightmare, though deviations from these themes are not particularly uncommon. As such, these phobias often pose a severe danger to guests, though. SCP-5223-1 will often step in and aid guests during their time in SCP-5223's dimension. Once a guest's time in SCP-5223's dimension is complete, the guest will then be permanently absolved of their phobia, by unknown means, and he or she will be escorted back to the guest's desired location and will be free
That's
to leave.
quite good.
Plus Addendum 5223-1, SCP-5223-1. Addendum 5223-1, SCP-5223-1. SCP-5223-1 is an elderly male of Caucasian descent, approximately 1.8 meters when standing. Upon arriving at site, an interview with SCP-5223-X1 was suggested by Dr. Baker. Interviewed, SCP-5223-1. Dr. Baker. Begin log. Dr. Baker, hello, SCP-5223-1. SCP-5223-1, please, call me Joseph. Dr. Baker, okay Joseph, do you have a last name? SCP-5223-1, Chester. Dr. Baker, age. SCP-5223-1 size and then pauses for a moment. SCP-5223-1, sorry son, I haven't had to remember my birth date in a long time. SCP-5223, for a short time before slamming both fists on the table. SCP-5223-1, yes, super. Well, I don't remember how old I am exactly, but I do remember how old I was when I stopped counting, 136.
That is not surprising or also being
laughs. Dr. Baker, 100.
that is surprising while also not surprising at the same time.
Grateful for being so old. SCP-5223-1, I know, can you believe that shit? 136 years old, makes you think. Dr. Baker, yes, it does. So, what connection do you and SCP-5223 have? SCP-5223-1, SCP-5223. Dr. Baker, the car. SCP-5223-1, you mean my truck? I've been riding that thing for as long as I can remember. It wasn't until recently that I learned about the teleportation thing. Oh, and the alien dimension. Dr. Baker, teleportation. SCP-5223-1. To cart myself here, but no one would listen. Jesus. I did like what? 1,000 times. I can just teleport my car there, you know. And, what do I get in return? Not a damn word. They didn't even tell their sign. You are. Dr. Baker, right. After your briefing. End log.
Foundation agents are not those receptive people.
Was then escorted to his briefing, after which, as per the direction of Dr. Baker, SCP-5223-1 was taken in for a mental evaluation. After SCP-5223-1 was deemed mentally sound, testing and research regarding SCP-5223's ability to teleport and pocket dimension, the alien dimension referred to by SCP-5223-1, was then has been found in any census or death records to a country, though, a birth record from a hospital in with features comparable to and who is believed to be a directed descendant of SCP-5223-1. All further investigations into Joseph Chester and Samantha Chester have been plus Addendum 5223-2. Addendum 5223-2. Testing logs.
Ooh, let's see the D class that gets tortured. I mean, tested on.
Kimberly. Phobia. S fighters. Heights. Procedure. Equipped with a standard issue body camera and comms unit. The subject is then instructed to approach SCP-5223. Upon stepping within 5 meters of SCP-5223, the subject begins to fall into a sort of trance state, in which she approaches the driver's side door. SCP-5223-1 can be seen through the open driver window sitting in the passenger seat of the vehicle. After reaching the window, dialogue typical of an SCP-5223 event ensues. Subject: Hi, who are you? SCP-5223-1, name's Joseph and yourself? Subject: Kimberly. SCP-5223-1, lovely, sit. SCP-5223-1 then pats the driver's seat of the car. Subject opens the driver's side door and sits in the seat. SCP-5223-1, alright, buckle up, I've got something to show you, but first, tell me where you're from. Subject: I'm not sure that. SCP-5223-1, tell me. Come on, I won't bite. SCP-5223-1 laughs. Subject: redacted. SCP-5223-1, perfect, you ever been to Paris, dear? Before the subject can answer,
I guess France?
SCP-5223-1 proceeds to twist the dial. A white flash can be seen through the lens of the body camera affixed to the subject, after which the view out of the driver and passenger windshield shifts to view what appears to be the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France. Subject screams in terror. SBC-5223-1, I know, I did the same thing my first time seeing the Eiffel Tower. Damn pretty, isn't it? Subject: what the hell did you just do?
Where?
-1, I teleported us. Pretty cool, right?
She shouldn't be so screamy about it.
Right. Subject is silent, seemingly in shock. SCP-5223-1, oh, don't be afraid, Kim. SCP-5223- for you. SCP-5223-1, on the dashboard. The same white flash envelops the vehicle, however, this time, only the passenger side of the vehicle shifts into SCP-5223's pocket dimension. SCP-5223-1 steps out of the car and offers his hand to the subject. The subject rises from her seat and exits out of the passenger side of the vehicle. He comes into view, and it is revealed to the camera that the subject and SCP-5223 standing in a large stone corridor with no windows. Large stone carvings litter the walls depicting a variety of scenes ranging from that of ancient Greek to modern influences. SCP-5223-1, well, pretty cool, right? Subject: it's beautiful. Where are we? SCP-5223-1, this is my truck's alien dimension. First place she took me once I realized she could teleport. Subject: that must have been pretty crazy. Subject is then let down the corridor by SCP-5223-1. After roughly 10 minutes, SCP-5223-1 stops abruptly and turns to face a large wooden door. SCP-5223-1, here we go, number 1. The subject's body camera focuses on a stone carving resting above the door depicting a large female arachnid eating its children. SCP-5223-1 pushes the door open and waves the subject through. Past the door, the camera pans upwards to reveal a sizable cavernous space reminiscent of an arena. Lights can be seen shining, however, their source is not readily apparent. As the subject and SCP-5223-1 walk,
Why are they
a
in
soft
an
crunching
arena?
noise, similar to that of walking on gravel, can be heard through the camera's onboard microphone. As the subject moves closer to the center of the arena, the soft crunching begins to sound closer to a person trudging through water, though the subject and SCP-5223-1 remain seemingly unaware of the growing noise. A large whooshing can be heard, and the camera spins to face a massive, moving wave of what appears to arriving jet black liquid. Black mass envelops the camera. The black mass fades, and the SCP-5223-1, standing over the subject, who seems to be curled up on the floor, extends his hand and aids the subject in standing. The arena comes back into view, and SCP-5223-1 can be seen brushing black flecks from his arms. SCP-5223-1, oh, you got some of those spiders on you too. The subject arms
Spiders.
and hundreds of spiders, Eratogena atrica, can be seen riding around.
I guess she's
The
gone.
subject yelps and brushes off her arms. The camera begins to shake violently, and the subject can be heard crying. SCP-5223-1 points behind the subject as another wave of spiders flows into the arena. The door
Okay,
materializes
less
at the front end of
spiders,
the arena,
please.
and SCP-5223-1 begins to run towards it. The subject begins to trudge through the large mass of live spiders now littering the floor. The second wave of spiders collides with the subject, and she falls. SCP-5223, come on, let's go. SCP-5223-1 picks up the subject and rushes through the recently materialized door and out into another stone corridor. SCP-5223-1 and the subject begin to laugh hysterically. The subject
Wait.
grabs one of the spiders and holds it up.
Oh, there
The spider
was
is now immobile and seemingly made of a
fears.
plastic-like substance. Subject: holy shit, were these always made of plastic? SCP-5223-1, no. Out here, they can't hurt you. Subject: that wasn't so bad. SCP-5223-1, facing your fears is almost never as bad as you expect it to be. Besides, that was a light pitch. Those spiders. SCP-5223-1 laughs. SCP-5223-1 grimaces and starts down the corridor.
Not said that. You gotta at least let her get used to the fact. I mean, those were the small spiders. Australian ones or human-sized
Walls
ones.
in this corridor are barren, although a few carvings depicting clouds are scattered around. Approaching another door, a carving depicting Icarus through a thicker patch of clouds. SCP-5223-1. Sorry, yeah. SCP-5223 raises two fingers as if to gesture to before opening the door as SCP-5223-1 and proceeds to push the subject through the door. Definitely. Immediately after being pushed through the door, downwards, and as she spirals through the air, SCP-5223-1 can be seen stepping off of the precipice himself. The subject and SCP-5223-1 fall for approximately half an hour, during which time SCP-52 catches up to the subject and points downward at a faint brown all street below them. As they approach the street, a brown wooden door comes into view and opens outward. SCP-5220 door and out into another open sky, though the cityscape that had once appeared to go on forever is no longer visible. Instead, a field bordered by streets lined with streetlights of a typical American suburb can be seen. SCP-5223-1 swing into view and can be seen wearing a black parachute. He gestures to a strap
Okay,
on his
which
hip and
fear is this
prompting
now?
the subject to do the same. Upon reaching the ground, the subject becomes enraged, confronting SCP-5223-1. Subject, you pushed me. SCP-5223-1, would you have jumped if I did? Subject, no, what if that had killed me? SCP-5223-1, Kim, do you really think that I would push you over some unknown edge? Subject, hey, I've never even met you before today. SCP-5223-1, relax, I knew you'd be okay. Those carvings on the walls, they are markers for the fears behind each door. I had seen that one before, so I knew how to get through it. The last guy, he wasn't so lucky. Subject, how did you know you weren't making a mistake? SCP-5223-1, I've made very few mistakes in my life, Kim. The more you dwell on the possibility of mistakes, the more you end up making. By the way,
Stop
only 2
blazing
fears.
yourself.
That's pretty impressive. SCP-5223-1 and the subject walk through the field to SCP-5223, now parked on a nearby side street, and the subject enters. SCP-5223-1, okay, do you want me to drop you off anywhere or just back in my chamber? Subject, you can just drop me off anywhere? SCP-5223-1, yeah, of course. Oh wait, we wouldn't want them listening in, would we? SCP-5223-1 and switches off the subject's body camera. Afterward, SCP-5223-1 returns to Foundation site. The subject's body camera is recovered from SCP-5223-1 by head SCP-5223 researcher, Dr. Baker.
But anyway, wow, the D-Class escaped. Now she's on run from the Foundation. So that's not great, but at least she's not D-Class anymore.
Baker. SCP-5223-1 is verbally warned about releasing D-Class test subjects to anywhere except Foundation-owned and operated testing locations. D52231 is yet to be located. Test B. Subject, D52232. Name, Raleigh. Phobia, S. Interpersonal. Snakes, heights. Procedure.
So basically, he's afraid of... I will stop laughing. So, he's afraid of women, snakes, and heights. Snakes and women. No, heights and snakes. But quite literally. My laughter. I got the perfect image. So the average anime protagonist, or something. I'm trying to find. But let's go back to the SCP logs.
Procedure. The test begins as typical of an SCP-5223. Subject which is SCP-5223 is lured in, and SCP-5223-1 begins a conversation. However, typical of a standard SCP-5223 event, SCP-5223 does not teleport as usual. Instead, SCP-5223 is seen to disappear and then immediately reappear approximately half of a meter from his previous position. Lead lining of current containment chamber is believed, by on-site testing staff, to have hampered SCP-5223's ability to teleport. However, this hampering effect does not seem consistent yet has been amended to SCP-5223's containment procedures. SCP-5223-1 remarks that this change is weird, and the test continues as normal. SCP-5223's pocket dimension opens, and the subject and SCP-5223-1 both enter into a large stone corridor. Subject, whoa, this is beautiful. Camera pans to view various carvings. The subject rushes to one of the carvings. Subject, oh my god, this is Cronus, right? I've always loved mythology. I used to read all sorts of these stories when I was
how
a kid.
did we not know that?
SCP-5223-1, yeah, my daughter used to love them too. I mean, her love for mythology was unmatched. Don't think anyone
Don't talk about any woman. You're
anyone
too
else did
afraid
as
of
much
that.
as ER. All she asked for her birthday, Christmas, and whatever else were more and more mythology books. Every year, I took her on a special trip to go see some of the great sites she'd read about in her book. Rome, Greece, Egypt, honestly more than I can remember, and everywhere she would take pictures of carvings she saw.
Of course
I
he
think
did.
that's why they
He got
disappeared
free
now. It could just be a
transportation.
coincidence. Subject, now seemingly uninterested in SCP-5223-1, proceeds to rush from wall to wall describing various scenes of ancient Greek, Roman, and Nordic
Oh,
mythology.
now he's
This
too
continues for well over 1
into
hour
it.
until
Now he's too into it.
SCP-5223-1
Should
is
we
able
get
to
to the
subject
fears?
continue further down the corridor. Subject and SCP-5223-1 approach a wooden door, bearing a carving of the goddess Aphrodite. The subject enters and is greeted by a large group of women. The women begin to obsessively fawn over the subject. D52232 shrugs off a few of the women and continue toward the door at the opposite end of the room. However, before the subject can exit the room,
You think you can escape? And also, he's truly really okay. No man's. You gotta force a person to leave that room. You gotta force me to leave that room. You gotta force me. You gotta force me.
the room, a crowd of women subdues him. After this, they proceed to offer him his freedom playfully should he complete a list of specific sexual acts. D522 agrees, and after being freed by the women, collapses next to the exit. SCP-50 That wasn't so bad now,
What
was it?
did with that list?
SCP-5223-1 helps the subject to his feet and places a hand on his shoulder.
This is on YouTube, so
SCP-5223-1. That was a good show.
maybe
SCP-5223-1
it's
laughed
good.
heartily.
I don't know.
Subject. I'd rather not talk about it honestly. SCP-5223-1 continues laughing and walks through it.
Point. I forget. This is on YouTube, so I don't know. So I don't really need it.
Door. Out into another stone corridor, and out of sight. SCP-5223-1. Come on now. You aren't the first guy to be scared of talking to girls. I've had more than a few come through here, although I don't think any of them had nearly as many ladies as you did. Due to the similarity to previous tests, the remainder of this test has been omitted.
Maybe I'll put this. Oh yeah, I forget. Why couldn't it be me?
Omitted.
Okay.
And only brief mention of the phobias therein contained will be given similar to test A. The subject conquered a fear of snakes in an arena similar to that experienced by D52232 again similar. Was asked to jump from a height to the ground fellow only to fall through a door and land in the same field as described in test A. SCP-5223-1 then releases test subject D52232 in a manner similar to that of test A. Afterward, SCP-5223-1 has been threatened with harsh punishment should he release another D-class test anywhere other than Foundation-owned properties. Sidehead recommends that personnel assigned to SCP-5223 just make the damn body cameras harder to turn off. Test 23. Subject. D. Name. James. Phobia. SD-5223 has no discernible phobias. SCP-5223-1 has been threatened with harsh... Again similar to test A, the subject was asked to jump from a height to the ground below only and land in the same field as described in test A. SCP-5223-1 then releases test subject D52232 in a manner similar to that of test A. SCP-5223-1 has been threatened with harsh punishment. Punishment should he release another D-class test subject to anywhere other than Foundation-owned properties.
First, it seems like he's not really human at all, so I don't know if that punishment would work anyway. Second, you really think a person who's 136 somehow has a car that can teleport anywhere is a normal human being? I just want...
Properties. Sidehead recommends that personnel assigned to SCP-5223 should just make the damn body cameras harder to turn off. Test 23. Subject. D5223323. Name. James. Phobia. SD-522323 has no discernible phobias. Note. Subject has been briefed on every aspect of SCP-5223's known capabilities. 23-1 from releasing more subjects. That if he is to take SCP-5223 once offer a release from Foundation custody, SCP-5223-1 will attempt to kill the subject. Procedure. The subject.
Effective strategy. Now that's an effective strategy. Genius.
Instructed to approach SCP-5223. Lowered. SCP-5223-1 is visible inside the vehicle. SCP-5223-1. Come on, sit. I'm sure they gave you a rundown of the procedure beforehand, so we can skip some of that. Have you ever been to... Subject. Sir, I lived in Detroit for most of my life. SCP-5223-1. Good. SCP-5223-1 hits a button, and the view through the windshield changes to that of a nondescript alley in Detroit. Subject. Oh, that's pretty cool, man. SCP-5223-1. It was the truck. You aren't more freaked out about being teleported halfway across the country in a pickup truck? Subject. Freaked out? That was sick as hell. They said you'd be able to do some cool shit, but damn. Oh, AD-522323 reaches over and shakes SCP-5223-1's hand. I'm James, but you can call me Fearless. SCP-5223-1. I'll call you James. SCP-5223-1 laughs, and both he and subject sit in silence for a moment. SCP-5223-1. Everyone is afraid of something, you know. Subject. No, man. I'm not scared of nothing. SCP-5223-1. Oh, then why are you here? Subject. I don't know. Maybe Dr. Baker saw something in me. SCP-5223-1. Right, well.
He sounds high.
SCP-5223-1 taps on the dashboard twice but does not make any attempt to push any buttons or twist any dials present on the dashboard. The view through the passenger side of the truck changes, and the subject and SCP-5223-1 both step out into SCP-5223's pocket dimension. Subject follows SCP-5223-1 down the straight stone corridor first explored in Test A and B and eventually arrives at a large marble door bearing a carving of the Roman god Pluto. SCP-5223-1. Oh no. No. SCP-5223-1 appears flushed and begins to pace in a tight circle, glancing at the subject periodically. After a period, SCP-5223-1 looks the subject in the eyes with a blank stare. Tears distort his eyes as if he were wearing contact lenses or glasses. SCP-5223-1. I'm so sorry. SCP-5223-1 is seen to embrace the subject before turning and slamming his fist into the stone door. SCP-5223-1. Goddamn you, you piece of shit. First, you take Sammy from me. Then, You lure me into this hellhole with the promise of helping people. Oh, yeah, I can help some people, sure, but the rest? The rest just have to fucking die.
Huh?
SCP-5223-1 proceeds to strike the door with his fists until both are stained brown with blood.
Exactly.
Subject. What do you mean die, Mr. Joseph?
What?
SCP-5223-1. You should have been honest with me. You could have just told me you were scared of dying and avoided all this. You see that carving? That is Pluto, the god of death. SCP-5223-1 sits resting his back on the wall adjacent to the door and pulls his knees to his chin. Subject.
Oh, now I get it. So I guess if you don't have any specific fear, and the only fear you have is the natural fear of death itself, the dimension will go to a death trap. And the only way to escape is facing the fear of the portal dimension. But in the portal dimension, the fear is real until you escape. But no one can conquer death or withstand death for longer than, instantaneous. So he's going to instantaneously. The spiders, he can survive it. The snakes, he can survive it too. The great heights, once you get to the ground, you're safe.
The other doors all have some trick, don't they? SCP-5223-1. Still crying. Looks up at the subject. SCP-5223-1. He doesn't have some trick. No one can conquer death. Subject opens the door with great strain, at which time, the image from the camera suddenly fades to black. The audio from the subject's onboard comms unit still receives audio. Opening of the large stone door. Subject. What was that? SCP-5223-1 remains silent. Subject. What if we just went back to the truck? We could just leave the way we came in, right? SCP-5223-1. It doesn't work like that. You can't outrun death. The crunching of what sounds like bone rings out through the corridor. The audio feed cuts out. Afterward, upon returning to the Foundation site, SCP-5223-1 does not immediately exit SCP-5223. Instead, he waits until Dr. Baker enters the containment chamber for the post-test interviewing process, exits the vehicle, and places D522323's body camera and comms unit in Dr. Baker's open hand. Both were soaked in blood. Test 27. Subject, D522327. Name, Sarah. Forward, subject D522327.
Well, I guess the
chosen
Foundation
specifically for
knows
this test
that.
due to her schizophrenia. While the subject is medicated, she often refuses to speak. When questioned, the subject declined to disclose her phobias. Procedure. Subject approaches SCP-5223 as in all previous tests, enters the vehicle, and begins conversing with SCP-5223-1. The view from the right side of the cab of the vehicle changes, and SCP-5223-1 and the subject step out into SCP-5223's pocket dimension. Rather than the typical straight, stone corridor seen in previous tests, SCP-5223's pocket dimension takes the appearance of a stone chamber surrounded by many hallways bearing illegible, though seemingly non-random scrawlings drawn in black paint. Subject, what's going on? D522327 takes a few steps toward SCP-5223-1. SCP-5223-1 looks around for a moment before responding. SCP-5223-1, I have no idea. Though SCP-5223-1 appears visibly distraught, he smiles briefly and starts down one of the stone passages.
Yeah, she's good.
Wooden, stone, and metal doors of various sizes and shapes line both walls. SCP-5223-1
You kind of wish she was
brushes his hand
A
along the
and B,
rightmost wall,
but
trying to
now
open
she's
particular
going to
doors as
probably
he walks.
test C.
Subject, Joseph. SCP-5223-1, what's up, kid? Subject, what are you looking for? SCP-5223-1,
A door
I
that
am
you're
looking
supposed
for.
to enter.
SCP-5223-1 reaches for a door and struggles with it for a minute before continuing. SCP-5223-1, I'm looking for something out of the ordinary. Usually, the alien dimension is pretty straightforward. This isn't. I haven't seen anything like this before. Subject, oh. SCP-5223-1 and D522327 continue down the halfway for another hour in silence before reaching the end of the hallway, which terminates at a brass door. The space above the door is characterized by a massive black marking not representative of any image or character currently identifiable. SCP-5223-1, get ready. Subject remains silent and takes a step toward the door, resting her hand on the brass. SCP-5223-1, right then, here we go. SCP-5223-1 pushes open the door with great effort. SCP-5223-1, what? Rather than opening out into a room, the door opens into another, similar-looking hallway. D522327 rushes past SCP-5223-1 and into the now-revealed hallway. A similar stone corridor stretches in two directions. Subject, maybe we should go back. SCP-5223-1, where? Subject, back to the car. Let's get out of here. SCP-5223-1,
Yeah, you're stuck.
Let's no, it doesn't work like that. She can't teleport from inside of here once we get out of the truck. Also, it is a truck, not a car. Come on.
Okay, you can stop being specific.
SCP-5223-1 starts down a hallway, and D522327 follows. They continue to walk for about an hour before reaching another break in the corridor. A hallway, resembling that of a Victorian-era house, stretches on in directions perpendicular to the current hallway. SCP-5223-1, this is new. Subject, new. SCP-5223-1, yeah, SCP-5223-1 chuckles, I'm kind of freaking the fuck out. SCP-5223-1 paces for a moment, you know what, let's find a place to rest up for a minute. SCP-5223-1
Well, even
walks down the hallway and turns into an open door disappearing from sight.
5223.
D522327 follows and finds him slumped over in an armchair, breathing heavily. SCP-5223-1, I'm getting too old for this, honestly.
Wow, even he's exhausted.
Honestly. D522327 looks around for a moment. Subject, Joseph. SCP-5223-1, get hit. Subject. If you die, what happens to me? Would I be stuck in here? SCP-5223-1 laughs. SCP-5223-1. I've been alive for more than 150 years. You think walking around for a few hours is going to put me under? Laughs. I'm not really sure what would happen. Maybe you take over driving the truck. Though, there's a good chance you would just die here without me. Some of this stuff can be pretty dangerous. 5223-1 remains silent for a moment while waiting for D522327 to respond. SCP-5223-1. You don't talk much, do you? Well, whatever. It seems like we might be here for a good long while, so I was thinking we should hang around and look for a place to rest up. Subject. Sounds good. SCP-5223-1. Oh, hey, turn off your camera. Secretary. SCP-5223-1 and D522327 struggle with the camera for a few minutes before it suddenly switches off. Off. A journal recovered by Dr. Baker after the test, which appears to be handwritten by D522.
What's wrong? Oh. Sorry, I just heard my dog.
D522327. Details events not.
Yeah, the director was right about the camera thing. Why do you have ability to switch off their cameras? It's always the hardest part.
Not shown on camera. D522327 log. We looked around for a while after Joseph turned off my camera, and most of this place is pretty nice. Besides the odd cobweb, the house.
The D class is writing this.
Oddly, lived in. I guess it's better than the stone hallways. I mean, the wood furnishings are really pretty, and there is a comfortable lack of. It has been about 4 hours since I took the time to write anything in my. We found a couple of bedrooms, a bathroom, and even a stock kitchen. Eventually, we found a kinda open living room. Whatever. The point is that the place has a weird couch bed thing, fireplace. So yeah, warm and sleep. Joseph let me have the couch, and he managed to scoot a bed over from the next room to be closer to the fire. After living in and out of care facilities and then being put under foundation custody, managing to fall asleep in such a strange place wasn't difficult. At least it wasn't as difficult as Joseph made it out to be. Oh, and we talked for an hour or two after dinner. Really, we just snagged some pretzels from the kitchen. He thinks this place is some sort of maze, which I guess makes sense, but it still freaks me out. The way he said it was just dark. You can hear his age when he talks. He's like an ancient wizard from a fantasy novel.
Wow, who
Every
knew
word he
that?
says has
He's
described
now
it
like
to him.
150
He says
years
he's
old.
experienced everything there is
Oh,
to see
probably
and
like
experience.
300 or
There is something
3,000.
video log. Subject. Joseph.
Wow, who knew?
SCP-5223-1 does not respond. Be heard, and D522327 moves to investigate. Subject. Hello. Subject. Who's there? The room is empty except for a single bed. A faint female scream can be heard from behind the subject. D522327 screams and darts into and down the hallway. Subject. Joseph. Help, please. The subject's face and breath quicken as what look like hands encased in a shadowy fog reach around the subject. Eventually, a bright light appears in front of D522327 further down the hallway. The subject moves toward the light and runs out into another stone doorway. Hey Sarah, where did you run off to? SCP-5223-1 stands under a doorway a few meters ahead of the subject. Subject. Something was following me through the house, and I ran, but it followed me, and I. SCP-5223-1. Hey, you'll be fine. Just calm down a little and tell me what happened. SCP-5223-1 turns off D522327's camera. D522327 log. I guess I was pretty shaken up from that thing following me. It's been like a month or two. Night doesn't happen here, so yeah. Progress. Well, we have gotten in a lot of walking, but as far as actually getting out of here, things happening either. I just kind of forgot to write. I guess I can go over some of the more notable things that have happened.
Yeah, if you hear anything that I changed, I was just changing the settings that I was recording.
We never did find the hallway house thing. I don't know what to call it, again. We also haven't found much more food. Every now and again, we would find a door, a small one, not one of the big important looking ones, unlocked. Usually, those doors would be kind of boring, empty hospital rooms, vacant classrooms, the chickens were once. The chickens were cute as hell. Sometimes though, we would find like a kitchen or dining room with food, once every few days or so. Then, we were walking down the same hallway we have been for a few months. Yeah, it's been boring as shit, but hey, I learned how to make fire. With my bare hands. That's about it from me. If anything else important happens, I might remember to write it down. Mount door, camera on. Video log. D522327 stands in front of a wooden doorway with brass handles. Above the doorway, a portrait, identical in every way to the subject, can be seen. SCP-5223-1. Oh, finally. Door. SCP-5223-1. You okay? Subject. Yeah. Pauses. I'm just excited. The subject continues, in the same cadence, to repeat the word door under her breath as SCP-5223-1 swings open the door. Both enter into the room. SCP-5223-1. It's dark. Subject. Yeah. An audible whisper can be heard behind the subject. An unidentified voice. 2327's name. Subject. Hey Joseph. What's up? SCP-5223-1. I didn't say anything. SCP-5223-1 screams, and an overhead floodlight snaps on. A light mist fills the space around the subject. SCP-5223-1 cannot be seen. Subject. Joseph, where'd you go? Joseph. Whisper. Hey, over here. D522327 spins to find an entity, referred to as entity. Description: identical in appearance to the subject emerging from the mist. Entity: what's up, cool cat? The entity's voice does not appear to emanate from the entity. Rather, the entity seems to be speaking from behind the subject. Subject: hot. Are you me? Entity: well, yeah. Who else? That girl at Chicago Lakeshore?
Well, how do we do? We are in a time skip. Let's enjoy what we can.
Subject: it was awful.
Oh yeah, everything.
You know as well as I do that's not who I really am. I was off my medication.
For
Entity: oh come on, are you just you when you are on the meds?
because I
You wouldn't have
overloaded
medication
my
in a while.
computer.
Laughs. D522327 Brex out calmly. Entity: we tackled her, and then we beat her until she cried.
Oh
But
yeah,
we
yeah.
just kept hitting her and
That makes sense why she's a D class.
pulling out her hair. Then we broke
Hello,
her arm.
Huffing.
Subject: stop it. Entity: her arm broke so easily. Honestly, it was kinda disappointing. Subject: I said stop it. Entity: the guard eventually did his job, but even in his arms, we never stopped kicking. Do you think we would have killed that poor little bitch if the guard hadn't shown up? Subject: she wasn't a bitch.